Chapter 3. Before Alex stepped on the plane en route to New York's LaGuardia Airport, she called her driver friend to pick her up. She gave him her flight number, and he agreed. He wanted to see her because he missed her. He would make it his business to be free. Brandon didn't think he would be happy to see her again, but he was, and he couldn't wait. Brandon drove a yellow cab now that Max had sold all his cars, and he wouldn't need them any longer. And Alex wouldn't have a need for a driver either, so Brandon was let go with a nice paycheck to see him through for 6 months. She wished she had her limo, and Brandon wished he was driving one, instead of tooling around town in a slightly used taxi. Even slightly used meant it could break down any time, and he could lose time at work, which meant no salary. And this was occurring often, so the money he had received from Blackstone had come in handy. Alex wasn't supposed to be in New York, but for 1 day, 2 at the most. That day she would meet Max, sign papers at his attorney's office, and they would fly out the next day on Max's private jet to their home in Montana. Brandon angled the cab and came to a screeching stop when he spotted her waiting outside the American Airlines terminal at LaGuardia. She waved when she spotted him. He stopped the cab, put it in park, left the ignition on, and rushed out to greet her. Hugging him, she said, "I miss you." "I miss you too." He did miss her, but he wasn't eager to see her return to New York. She released her carry-on luggage into his hands, and he lifted her wheeled carry-on and dropped it in the trunk of the yellow cab. After climbing into the back, and when Brandon got behind the wheel, she said, "It's good to see you again, Brandon." "I missed you so much," she said with warmth in her voice. Her tone sincere, and she sounded like a dear friend who hadn't seen a childhood friend in years. "I miss you too," Brandon said with not the same enthusiasm. Maybe it was because he had to concentrate on the traffic, or she raised bad memories. Memories he would like to forget. "How is New York since I've been away?" she said, leaning forward so her voice could travel through the open partition. "You haven't been gone long for anything to change. The business is bad since Uber came into town, and I just can't get used to driving these things. Not after driving a limo and your fancy cars. Other than too many cars on the road, sucking in fumes every day, too much noise in the city, the rent is going up, and few people are taking cabs, everything is the same. I had to leave." "I'm glad you did. You had no business in a place like this with all those small children and your husband gone all the time. And don't mention that brother of his, Jonas. He wasn't any help. I understand he left the city too. That's our loss." He shook his head and laughed at his own joke. "Let's not talk about Jonas. I love him. He's got lots of problems." "I know. He leaves his problems for others to clean up," Brandon said with a sour expression on his face. His assessment of Jonas wasn't far from the truth. He got a taste of Jonas firsthand, and it haunts him till this day. Since Jonas pulled Alex into his mess, and she put Brandon in it too, and he ended up cleaning up one of Jonas's problems, Brandon was delighted when he heard Jonas had left town. "Where is Jonas anyway?" he said, glancing in the rear-view mirror, and saw the pain on Alex's face. Every time Brandon mentioned Jonas's name, she blinked another nervous tick. "He's somewhere in San Francisco with his wife and son. He has a family. God bless them." Then silence fell, until Brandon parked in front of her building. He opened the door and hopped out, as he had done 100 times before, and Alex never waited for him to open her door, as she had done 100 times before. They stood looking at each other on the sidewalk. Brandon holding her luggage, not sure what he should do next. "Do you want me to go with you, up to your apartment? Make sure you're safe." "No, Brandon. It won't be necessary. There are no complications now. Maybe Alex spoke too soon. I know about that Robert character killing himself. The papers said it was an accident. Brandon stared at her as if he knew something. If he did, he wouldn't mention it. Not after all he had been caught up in, and because it looked to be a painful subject for both of them. And he appeared to be relieved that Robert was out of the picture. I didn't like him. He was a dangerous man. Yes. Let's not talk about Robert either. I don't want to be reminded of anything that had to do with him, Alex said. The doorman opened the door, and they walked in. Good to see you, Mrs. Blackstone. I thought we wouldn't see you again, what with the building being sold. Brandon looked to Alex in surprise. Yes. Thank you, it's good to see you. Alex kept walking, and not responding to the comment about the sale of her apartment building. Brandon trotted after her, pulling her luggage as the wheels made a squeaky sound along the polished marble floors. They stopped when she reached the farthest elevator, and put in a key and turned it. Brandon handed over her luggage, his face showing no emotion. Her eyes sad as tears welled up inside. Turning to Brandon, she reached to give him a hug. She glanced up and remembered the cameras. Max couldn't have missed her on the camera when she went to Robert's apartment. But she didn't want to think about that now, because it was over. I'll send a check to your bank, she said. You don't have to do that. I know. But what am I going to do with all that money if I can't help out a dear friend who gave me a hand when I needed help? Brandon just stared at Alex and gave her a warm closed smile and took a deep breath. I guess this is it. I won't see you again. You take care of yourself, Alex. I mean Mrs. Blackstone. Don't stop calling me Alex. It reminds me of where I came from. She hugged Brandon, and when the elevator opened, she stepped inside. She waved at him, and the doors slowly and quietly closed, with both of them peering at each other like two lost puppies. When the elevator stopped, it opened up, and she stood in her apartment looking around. She made a sigh. It had been a happy place, just like the one across town where she and Max spent their time away from the children. It was as if they were in another world when they got together. She glanced around. Some of the furniture she took with her, and the other she left. It was her sanctuary until she met Robert, and then she felt there was no place to hide from him. And she would run from Robert, and meet Max at their apartment around the corner. In that apartment, she didn't have the thoughts of Robert looming over her. In their second apartment, she and Max had made their own private little dungeon, where Max could live out his fantasy, and she had been living out hers, just being with him. He was all she ever wanted in life. Now she had him, and she wouldn't let him go. It was his idea to go back to Montana, where the children could run free, and there they could all be together like a family he never had. After he sold his companies, and fly into New York to meet her, they could be together living out their dreams. Sometimes dreams never seem to come true. At least that has been Alex's experience, but maybe this time it will be different, she thought. Alex will be with her Prince Charming, living a good life. Her life had begun hard, but now it turned into a quiet, privileged life. A hard life where she was put up for adoption, adopted by a loving couple, and she became an unruly teenager who ran away from home to end up on the streets, and then survive long enough to make it to college in New York, and meet the man of her dreams who left her pregnant and alone. Now that was all over. She and Max had worked out their differences, and worked out their sexual compatibilities, where they discovered they were what each other needed. They were destined to be together. Alex sat on the sofa and put her feet on the table in front of her as she watched at the Manhattan skyline. How she would miss this skyline. She stood and walked into the kitchen. She wondered if there was anything to make a sandwich, and surprisingly she found something. There were beers, caviar, and deli meat inside the fridge. She glanced around and found some bread. Sitting on the bar stools, she smiled. This is what she had been looking for lately. A nice quiet day. A beer and a sandwich. Preferably with Max, but he would be there soon, so not to worry. As she took another bite of her sandwich and took a sip of her beer, she remembered that she hadn't said goodbye to a friend. She drank the beer and finished off the sandwich. Reaching for her purse, she pulled out her smartphone and hit the button. Hi, Melody. Holy shit. Alex Blackstone, is that you? The one and only, Alex said with a quiet, soft tone. Where the fuck have you been? And how is that fine-ass man of yours? I'm good. A little bored. That fine man is supposed to be in town about now. He should be getting off his jet just about. She checked the time on her smartphone. Now. I'll tell him you said hi. Can you come out to play? Not with Max coming in so soon. I have so much to tell you, Alex. Remember that Robert character? I forgot you probably know all about him. Wait, Melody, the house phone is ringing. The only person who calls me on it is Max. Hold on a few minutes. Alex knew that if Max was calling now, he was delayed. She expected that. She had been waiting for him a lifetime and anticipated that it would be something to prevent her from seeing him today. She wished things would go as planned sometimes in her life. Max. Her voice light. Alex, baby, I can't land yet. I have to stop in New Jersey, and I probably won't make it home until, he paused. Until I get home. I have to go now, see you soon, Max said. He didn't say he loved her. She had been hoping for that. She knew he had warmth, but he only showed it in the bed, and with his children. Maybe he had people around. She gave him an excuse. The benefit of the doubt. She placed the phone down, took a moment to calm herself, and walked back to her phone on the counter. Are you there, Melody? Her voice broke, but not so Melody would notice. You sound disappointed. Powerful men always disappoint their women. Everyone wants a piece of them. You just have to live. You can't spend your nights waiting. Alex listened attentively. I know what you can do. Come with me tonight to a Halloween party. What do you say? There was silence. But I have no costume, and I'm not in the mood to look for one. I have plenty, and they come with a mask. And what's great about this, it's at my parents' mansion. Your parents? She asked because she wasn't sure she wanted to be with a bunch of 60-year-olds discussing politics. It's not what you think. My parents are progressive. They love to have young people mix with some of the gray hairs. And they gossip. You can find out about anyone just mingling in with them. I know everything about everybody who's somebody, and they'll be here. Well, maybe not your husband. But you'll be here. Alex didn't answer. She had to think. Oh, come on. I don't like gossip. And Max wouldn't be caught dead at a party unless he was raising money for a charity. Good. Now come, so you don't have to be alone. It'll make the time go by faster. I'll send a car for you in 2 hours. Remember now, I have everything you need. Don't bring anything but yourself. But I haven't agreed to go. You don't have to. I'm sending a car anyway. I don't want to have to go get you and pull you out of your apartment, but I will. All right. I'm going. Alex wore a closed smile. I knew you would. I'm persuasive like that. Learned that from my father. Tell you all about it when you get here. 2 hours, remember. Tired from the airplane ride and disappointed in Max, Alex fell across her bed. The bed she wouldn't lay in again. The bed where Max held her in his arms. All the furniture in the house had been sold. When Alex woke, it was 8 o'clock, and the car would be there at 9. Jumping up, she ran to the bathroom. She loved that bathroom with its large square tub. She and Max spent hours with each other in that tub. She only had a few minutes, so she used up those minutes taking a shower. After her shower, she dressed in a pair of blue slacks and a sky blue long-sleeve blouse, and retrieved her soft dark blue light leather jacket from her luggage. When the doorman called her, she was ready to leave by 9. She swiped lip gloss on as she headed for the door. She gathered her leather jacket in her hand and slung her purse over her shoulder. She took one last glance in her floor-to-ceiling mirror, smiled, and walked into the elevator.